you believe in the existence of extraterrestrials? Tell me I'm crazy.
Mulder, you're crazy.
I can't give up. Not as long as the truth is out there. I want to believe.
Welcome to this episode of the X-Files with your hosts Mark and Becky. I'm Mark and hi Becky.
Hello.
Right, so we're getting towards we are at the end of season 2 of these 4. So we're going to tell everyone about the last 4 episodes of season 4 and then probably give our top 3 of the season, maybe the bottom 1 and maybe any other honourable mentions. Right, so let's drive straight on in. Episode 22 of season 2 is F. Immaculata. Written by Chris Carter and Howard Gordon, directed by Rob Bowman, the old stalwart Rob Bowman. First aired in the US on the 28th of the 4th, 1995. Any thoughts on this one generally before we get into the more specifics?
Just that I really enjoyed it and I thought the effects in this one were great.
I have got a note at the top of my nose and I think it sounds like I'm being insulting about the episode, but not really. It was just a general note, which is our heroes don't know why they've been involved, and nor do I. That's what I put. I've also put there's a lot of holes in this one, and then in brackets, literally. This is a proper gross episode.
It really is.
It's grim. It's they've forsaken, I think, tension and terror and horror, and gone for the straight gross out in this one. If you take Stephen King's sort of 3 levels of horror, they've gone for the gross out in this one. It was fun though. It was fun. It was. The whole premise was, it started really gross. Is it an archaeologist or botanist or something in the rainforest? Entomologist. Is in the rainforest and he finds this boar or big wild pig's carcass with these bugs crawling out of it. And when he kind of examines one of the sort of pustules of it, it squirts all over his face. It's really gross. It's properly gross. I'm glad I wasn't eating.
I was.
Oh,
I wasn't for long.
So you didn't remember this episode? Because I remembered it and I thought, I'm not eating while I'm watching that one.
It's kind of a necessity. I had to kind of eat at that time. And it was like,
whoa. And it didn't let up really, did it? I mean, after that scene, there was a little bit of respite. And then we kind of changed to a prison. And bizarrely, this prisoner gives this package, which turns out to be like an uncooked leg of pork. Big plot hole for me there. It's like, did no one look in this package? He did infer they were playing a trick on him, didn't they, at one point? It was like, you think this is funny or something like that? It's a bit of a stupid plot idea, really, and quite bizarre, though they kind of explain later why this particular guy got this particular present. I don't know what you call it.
But it still should have been searched, like you say, though. Yeah,
indeed. And it turns out that this is like a pharmaceutical company that wants to try and bypass a load of sort of standard testing by just introducing something into a set population, which is a prison population. And their cover is... this guy's got the same name. I think it's the same name as the guy who dies at the beginning, or is affected at the beginning. So they can always blame it on clerical error. Kind of was the idea. But to me, it's like, well, if you could just send that to someone in prison, wouldn't you just send it under a false name? And then it's not traceable to anyone. I thought, I'm picking holes in this. But the plot was goofy. It really was. It turns out this company called Pink Industries, an interesting choice of name. They're interested in this bug because it's got a dilating enzyme, and they're kind of interested in that pharmaceutically. But it also seems to be carrying this disgusting parasite. I did like some of the dynamics in the episode, though. There's a bit where there is kind of an interesting dialogue going on, where it's like, how much should you tell people about the truth, even if you find it? You know, you got to weigh the costs. I like some of that aspects. Did you? What did you think?
Yeah, I think so. And we've had a couple of episodes recently where we've commented on the fact that Scully is just kind of taken at face value everything that's happening. She isn't questioning anything. We're not seeing her writing up her reports, and she's not evaluating the scenes or anything like that. She's just accepting them like Mulder. So she kind of took on her original role here, which was nice.
Yeah, it was kind of cool. It was interestingly, there's quite a dialogue between the cigarette smoking man and Mulder, isn't there? There's when Mulder wants to know why they've been planted in this case. And again, it's never really explained in the episode, is it? Why Mulder and Scully have been sort of parachuted into this one, because it becomes a big manhunt episode as well, doesn't it? These escaped prisoners who have been come into contact with this guy, and they haven't told the US Marshals what's going on. They just said there's a manhunt, and it's kind of really odd that they've just let it proceed this way.
Yeah,
I presume the breakout wasn't part of the plan,
Yeah. Exactly. And again, that was just a bit too easy, wasn't it?
Yeah, I mean, it was like the X-Files take on films like, I'm trying to think, what's that one with the monkey and Dustin Hoffman? Outbreak.
Yes. Yeah.
And there's another film called Contagion. There's various, films, thrillers about people with a disease have to be tracked down before that gets in the general population, or they've got to try and figure out who the vectors are. And this was the X-Files take on that, with a lot of gross ladled on top. There was more pus in this episode than I care to see again. It was really gross.
It's the fact that they were like pulsating and getting bigger as well.
Oh, and Scully does some really stupid things in this episode. I just remember at one point there's these rat bodies, and she's no coat, no protective stuff, no mask. She gets a scalpel, cuts open the protective layer, opens it, and there's like all these pustules, and it's like, yeah, that is, Scully's not that stupid.
No.
And it seemed a bit goofy, and then this doctor tried to stop her, and he got a right pusful in the face, didn't he? It was disgusting. It was really gross. Yeah. It was kind of cool, that actor. I'm trying to remember what I've seen him in. He's like he's in a fair few things. The only thing I can think of off the top of my head is he was like the accountant in a movie called The Untouchables with Kevin Costner. That was pretty cool. But he's been in a few things. He's like a Clint Howard kind of actor guy, he just pops up in stuff. He was pretty good in this, but you knew that he bought the ticket once he got a face full of that stuff. And Scully had basically done it to him as well. So anyway, I've rabbited on about the pus quite a lot. Anything you want to say about it?
That's really the main part of this, though, isn't it? The plot doesn't hold up, so...
No, I mean, the dialogue, the interesting dialogue about public, balancing telling people things against not telling people things in terms of public safety. And the cigarette smoking man basically says, you tell the truth, you'll create mass panic. And I think he comes up with the phrase, you control the information, you control the disease. And Skinner agrees with him. So it's like, in a way, Skinner's coming across as one of the bad guys in this one. It's a bit weird. In fact, there's one point he actually says to Mulder, I'm telling you as a friend, watch your back, which sounds like a threat to me. It's a bit odd, doesn't it? It sets
up future events very nicely and kind of starts off that kind of thread of paranoia, I think. Yeah,
it does indeed. It's weird that, Skinner's always acted like he can't stand a cigarette smoking man, mostly, but in this one he seems kind of relaxed around him, as relaxed as Skinner ever gets, But then when Mulder says, "Look, the truth should always be told," then when he talks to Scully, Scully's kind of saying, "Well, that's true." So Scully, it is also kind of agreeing with the cigarette smoking man, and quite rightly, she makes a good point. Mulder's point is, what about the people that die because we haven't told the truth? And Scully comes back with, what about the people that will die if we do tell the truth? If we create panic. It's got a good point. So it leaves Mulder in a bit of a quandary, this one. And he's not quite sure. He's kind of starting to realise perhaps that just getting the truth out there no matter what isn't the wisest thing to do. Though it never really changes his spots, does he, Mulder? That's the thing.
No.
So it was kind of a fun episode. The plotting was kind of atrocious. It felt a bit rushed. I think they could have polished it up a bit better. Maybe. Yeah. Though I think the fundamental problem of someone getting a pig leg in a prison was like, how are you ever going to get around that? It was kind of a hybrid episode because there was definitely a bit of the conspiracy stuff because the cigarette smoking man, and it was kind of cool that he was kind of his fingers weren't just in pies about aliens and this that. It was also about other governmental things, which sometimes would happen with Deep Throat and X as well, wouldn't it? It's the government stuff's bigger than just alien, conspiracy stuff.
Yeah, and that's where I think it kind of went wrong. I mean, like you say, there are certain plot holes that really needed addressing, but if they would have just kind of focused it a bit more and, really focused on the government conspiracy aspect, the fact that, the X-Files, Mulder and Scully were called in, this was an X-File, would make more sense if somebody was trying to get rid of them, especially as Scully is contained, because the actual prison is locked down, isn't it?
Yeah.
And obviously, that they want that kind of contained atmosphere to see what's going to happen. So that would have all made much more sense and made the conversations between the smoking man and Skinner even more kind of sinister. But
they turn it into like Men on the Run, and this guy's kind of getting diseased. He goes and sees his girlfriend and his kid. She gets a face full of pus as well, I think, if I remember rightly. Yeah, she does. And we never see them again. She's dead, that's it. Kids crying, it's a bit heartless, really. It's like maybe it should have just stayed in the prison.
Definitely. And that would have, we would have had another case of, an isolated location kind of story, which I think would have worked well. But just coming back to that point, the poor kind of the clerk at the gas station, the one that's clobbered over the head, he gets taken away
in a glass case. Mulder saying, "What's going on?"
We never hear from him again.
Yeah, they just turn up in special suits and take him away. That's bizarre. That is properly bizarre. I must have spent a fair bit on it. It looked really good. That whole scene looked really good.
Yeah.
But it was very throwaway, wasn't it? It was like, wasn't really needed. We needed a way of knowing where the guys were going, and they set up this elaborate, this pump station guy gets taken away and his friend was getting ill and this, that and the other. But I just felt a bit bad for the girlfriend and the kid, frankly.
Yeah.
So they were trying again. As often is the case, they were trying to do a bit too much. If they'd have tightened it down a bit, it might have been better. Having said that, I kind of liked it. I did like it. It was a proper gross episode, though. That's what all you can say about it, really. I haven't got much more to say other than rating it. Have you got anything else?
No.
Okay. What would you give this out of 10?
I'd probably give it a 3.
Oh, pretty weak. I'm actually going to give it a 5. I liked it. I think it's very, very right in the middle there. Not terrible, but not good in any way, really. I will say, though, I did really like the music in it and the direction. Rob Bowman there. So I like that about it, but just so it didn't quite hang together in any sort of coherent way. Well, it did hang together, but the plot holes were amazingly big, really. Okay, let's have a little musical interlude there and get into the next episode.
like the wallpaper sticks to the wall.
Like the seashore clings to the sea.
Like you'll never get rid of your shadow. Frank, you'll never get rid of me.
Let all the others fight and fuss.
Whatever happens, we've got us. We're closer than pages that stick in a book. We're closer than ripples that play in a brook. Wherever you'll find him, you'll find me, just look. Closer than a miser or the bloodhound's Deliza me.
We're closer than smog when it clings to L.A. We're closer to Bobby is to JFK. Not a soul can bust this team in two. We stick together like glue. And when it's a sleeping time,
that's when we rise.
We start to swing,
swing to the sky.
Our clocks don't chime.
What a surprise. They ring. A ding ding, a happy new year. And now to repeat what I said at the
Right, this episode's number 23, called Soft Light. Written by Vince Gilligan, directed by James Contner. First aired on the 5th of May 1995. Interesting one. What do you think of this one?
I thought the premise was great, and that, again, it just wasn't executed very well, but it's kind of a mid-level one for me. I quite enjoyed it.
There was elements of it, a certain one element of it reminded me of the first Tombs episode. What's it called? The first one with Tombs? Stretch, is it? I can't remember what it's called. Where in that one, one of Scully's old colleagues from the academy call her in because they want a bit of input. And this happens again in this one. Kelly Ryan, who's Scully's student, sort of calls her in because she wants some help. Interestingly, I noticed that Kelly Ryan, so-called Scully's student, looked significantly older than Scully, actually. It seemed a bit odd to me. She and in fact, what she does die, and we see her gravestone, and she's 30 years old from the gravestone. So that seemed a bit odd. There was some really good direction in this one, actually. James Contner directed this, and I'm not sure he's directed any others. I could be wrong. He may have. Name doesn't ring a bell, but there were some really nice touches in this. I kind of liked the way X kind of turned a bit in this one, didn't he? Actually, he kind of was warning Mulder off, but it's really because he wanted to catch the scientist himself. So X is being kind of dodgy here, isn't he?
He really is. And it was interesting at the end, though, I thought, the kind of information he gave to Mulder, very almost reluctantly.
Yes, yeah, he kind of didn't want to reveal. Well, it was kind of, I don't know, I can't work X out still at this point.
That's
is he
the thing.
ashamed of himself or what? Or is he just, it's for the greater good kind of thing? I can't quite work out his character.
That's the thing. He's kind of going down the very shady route all the way through, and this episode is the same, but the ending kind of just turns that on its head a little bit. But we don't know whether we're seeing the real him or not.
Yeah.
So,
well, that has to develop. I did like the fact that when Mulder sort of questions what's going on with Kelly, is the Scully's student not that competent, or what are her motivations? And Scully kind of really has a go. She said, she's a woman in a boys' club, was kind of thing. But Mulder counters with, well, yeah, but you never put yourself above the case. She is in this instance. That
was interesting.
Yeah, interesting dynamic. It doesn't get picked up too much, but I thought that little bit was really well written. So it conveyed it quite well. It wasn't like throwaway, let's put it that way.
No, and that's it with Scully. I think yes, she has handled it differently, but she's still encountering all the same pressures, and she's still kind of having to internalize that and deal with that on a daily basis. So I think it was really clever done. Like you say, it was very subtle, and her character in itself isn't, she doesn't express herself and her emotions or how she kind of feels a lot. So it was just worked really well, but to get that point out there.
Yeah, it's interesting. She's almost like an aspect of Scully.
Yes.
In some ways, a reflection of Scully as well. I've already mentioned that particular setup of an old colleague, as it were, of Scully bringing him into a case. There was one other nod towards Toombs. At one point, this guy's disappeared, and they're kind of looking at the crime scene, and both of them look up at a vent and then look at each other. Toombs. That made me laugh. The actual physicsy stuff of this was a bit goofy, but basically, from what I gathered, his shadow becomes effectively like a black hole or something that destroys matter if it touches something.
Yes, I think it splits atoms, doesn't it? Reduces matter into energy.
Yeah,
pure energy.
Now, I did a bit of research in this one, and the writer on this, it was like first time, and he didn't quite understand the constraints of budget and TV, and he basically, the original story actually had the shadow going off and doing its own thing and moving around, which sounds really cool, kind of, but goofy, but obviously that's massive amount of special effects compared to what they had. So they got him to rewrite it until he came up with this one. Now, I kind of like the story. I think the premise is goofy, but if you go with it, I think the story was kind of cool, actually. But in some ways, to me, this almost felt a bit like a season 1 episode or script that had been dusted off for season 2. It wasn't. It was written for season 2, but it just felt like something more from season 1 where they were finding their feet. Does that make sense?
Yes.
Their interactions weren't quite spot on and stuff like that. Though, like I say, there were some good scenes. The bit where they argue about what Scully defending her student was kind of cool. And I kind of like the whole premise of that guy having to find diffuse. He's terrified of hurting anyone. In a way, he's kind of a Larry Talbot character. Larry Talbot, the Lon Chaney character playing the werewolf, just terrified of himself. What he can do. Though he does deliberately kill someone at one point, doesn't he? If I remember rightly, the sort of people that left him in this state. The first death is an accident, isn't it? A guy, the shadow accidentally falls on someone, if I remember rightly. It's been a while since I've seen this one, so I'm a little fuzzy on that. But that actor, I've only ever seen him in one other thing I can think of. I'm sure he does a lot of American TV because he's got one of those faces. But I remember him as the Doctor character in Galaxy Quest.
Yes.
He plays like a bit of a not dopey, like a simple soul. Let's put it that way. It was like acts as the Doctor on the thing, and he falls in love with one of the aliens. I remember that. He was pretty good in that, and he's an entirely different character in this. Basically, he's hanging around places where there's diffuse light, so he hasn't got a shadow. Basically, he's terrified of it, isn't he?
Yeah.
And it turns out that, and towards the end, they kind of... again, X is kind of warning him off, but it turns out X is trying to extract him himself. He's got a couple of guys trying to extract the guy. So it's all very dodgy. I'm trying to think... At one point, the guy's in a hospital, isn't he? Is that right? He's in a hospital.
Yes.
And that's where they try and extract him. But again, the shadows, once his shadow sort of is unleashed, as it were, once he's in a place where shadows could fall, he kind of destroys everyone around him, kind of thing. And he tries to bother him.
Yeah.
It's kind of cool. There was what I've already mentioned. I kind of like the direction. There was one really cool bit where we see Mulder's shadow on a wall in a garage, I think, and then you see X's shadow next to him, so it's almost like their shadows are communicating, and then finally they start talking. It's kind of cool. I like that bit.
Yeah, it's a nice kind of nod to film noir, I think.
Yeah. So it seems like, because X is trying to get him, I presume the government are interested in this scientist and what's gone on. the whole aspect of him being in a sort of accident and having this power reminded me a bit of the Watchmen. You know, what happens to Dr. Manhattan gets caught in a nuclear test and turns into this like weird superhero with amazing powers. That kind of this one reminded me a bit of that, you know, in terms of that minor bit of plotting of how this shadow thing came about.
Yeah.
The episode was all right. So it wasn't great. It had problems, and I felt the pacing was a bit off too. What did you think of it overall?
Like I say, I think it's kind of, you know, a mid-level entry in the series. I quite enjoyed the premise. You know, it was a bit goofy in parts, but it was, like you say, the kind of superhero aspect of it. I just thought was quite interesting. And I liked the dynamics in terms of the conversations, like you say, with similar to I can't remember now, but the other person in Tombs, somebody from Scully's past.
Yeah, her colleague from the academy.
Yes, yeah.
I can't remember his name either.
It's quite nice to kind of get those relationships and that, and I thought it was really funny that it was the same woman who was in Gender Bender.
Was it?
Kelly Ryan, yes, she was the one that Krychek's previous character called a weak 3. We said she was a strong one. Yeah.
She looked different to me. Maybe her hair was different. I remember she had frizzy hair in Gender Bender.
And she was made out to be a weak 3, so she
yeah. Nice, lovely phrasing. The character we were trying to think of from the Tombs episode with Squeeze was Tom Colton, was his name.
That's the one.
Yeah.
I really like it when they bring those kind of relationships in, and that kind of affects Mulder and Scully.
Yeah. And
it's a shame that they could have done a little bit more, I think, especially with the gender politics here. That would have been really interesting.
Yeah, it would have, yeah. And there was time to do it. The episode was baggy in places. There was definitely space in there to insert a little more. Although I'm constantly complaining about how much to jam in. In this one, they could have had a bit of that. It would have been kind of nice. I thought this was kind of mostly weak. I kind of liked it, but it was kind of quite a weak episode. I wouldn't put it particularly high. However, I have to say the fight. I mean, it ends with we believe, or Mulder and Scully are led to believe that this guy's been killed, but we find out that he's been taken by the government and he's been tested, and they're basically he's just in a chair weeping while they this sort of unemotional scientist studying him. It's a brutal ending, really brutal. Reminded me a bit of Clockwork Orange, the bit where Alex has been forced to sit with his eyes open. It reminded me a little of that. And we don't know how long, and it just ends. So we know that he could be there for years being tested. I
think he even says that. We'll get years out of this guy, basically.
Yeah, well, oh man, brutal ending. Good ending. Yeah. Good ending.
Yeah.
On what I think is quite a weak episode. What would you give this one out of 10?
4.5.
4.5. You get halves, eh? Halves. Yeah, I'd just give this a 2. I wasn't impressed with this one.
Wow.
I like the end, but the premise was like, I found it really hard. One of the problems I had with this one is I found it really hard to engage. It was like I kept getting distracted and checking my phone because it just wasn't grabbing me. Apart from the odd scenes where Mulder and Scully were doing it, sort of talking, it just wasn't grabbing me much. So, but great ending though, having said that. Right, let's have a little more music and let's go to our town after that.
It's incredible.
Right, episode 24. So we're getting right near the end now. Season 1. They must have been getting tired at this point. But putting a game one on this one. Our Town. So episode 24. Writer was Frank Spotnitz. Frank Spotnitz becomes a big presence in the X-Files in the future. But he's the writer on this one. Directed by Rob Bowman. First aired on the 12th of May 1995. What's your general thoughts on this one?
It has cannibals, so
Cannibals, lovely.
it's up there for me.
Yeah, it was kind of reminded me in terms of the vibe. It had this macabre, kind of fun, creepy element to it that reminded me a bit of The Hand Diverlet's episode in its kind of general vibe. And there was all sorts of things in this made me laugh. Again, their show, it's like the X-Files writers hate chickens. We kind of discussed this last episode.
Really hate chicken. I had to say that. And I'm so glad chickens got their revenge in that last episode.
Yes. Did this one remind you of any other movies, TV shows, or anything like that?
A little bit of Millennium, I'd say. It had that kind of darker vibe about it.
Yeah, it was Millennium.
Millennium-esque.
Millennium-y. It gave it a Kill List. It made me think of Kill List, actually.
Oh, with the cult aspect. Yeah.
And the Wicker Man as well. There was also... It made me really think a lot, because at one point there's like this person attacking people with like this weird ceremonial garb with feathers. And there was actually an episode of Kolchak, a really odd episode of Kolchak, called Legacy of Terror, which was about a South American cult that were like recreating like Inca ceremonies where, you know, a man was treated like not as a god, but as a, you know, given anything they wanted for a whole year as long as they agreed to be the human sacrifice at the end of it. And it was kind of cool. There was a guy dressed a bit like the guy in this. In that, who was like knocking off people. And that Kolchak episode, this is one for old people, right? You might not know this name, but that Kolchak episode starred Eric Estrada as the guy that was being set up to become the human sacrifice. Eric Estrada was kind of a significant actor in a TV series called Chips. But we are talking about 70s here. So, you know, I don't expect anyone to know about that, but I just thought I'd point it out for any old people listening, like myself.
I remember bread. I don't remember chips.
No, it's chips. Goes well with bread. Okay. So there was these kind of culty in the town cult kind of business. I guess of things like Children of the Corn maybe as well, you know, stuff like that. No, it starts off interestingly. Mulder's going on and on about all sorts of other things, isn't he? He's going on about foxfires and witches' pegs. He sees a witch's peg on the ground. He says, "You didn't tell us there was a witch's peg at the scene." He goes, "There's witches' pegs all over this county." And the sheriff's like a homespun, happy, smiley guy. A bit concerned about what's going on, but he seems pretty sort of standard sheriff. Good, decent acting job there. I've seen this guy in other things. Can't think what, but I've definitely seen him in other things. He's got an Osmond. He looks like one of the Osmonds. You know, he's got a lot of teeth and smiling.
Perfect teeth.
He does look like one of the Osmonds. Now, at one point I don't know if I'm jumping around.
Insinuating that the Osmonds are cannibals.
Yeah, basically there's a chicken. This guy has basically made the town. I'm trying to remember what his surname is. It's something Chickens, isn't it?
And Chaco, is it?
Jaco.
Chaco, Chaco.
Chaco.
Yeah, that's how I pronounce it.
Yeah, this guy has basically created this chicken supply farm, and the whole town is basically employed to sort of run this chicken processing, poultry production place. You know, there's lots of chickens, and they're like got these production lines of like gutting the chickens and all this that and that. I bet you loved this episode, didn't you?
Honestly, this was more revolting than the pus in F. emasculata.
There's we basically people go. Someone disappears and he's like a bit of a run around. He found that he's like not treating his wife right, and what they suggest he's run off with a woman. But essentially, we see him at the beginning being set up by this girl who kind of says, she's giving it. We're not sure. At the beginning, it looks like they're a couple, but in fact, she's just led him on to come out there, and then she says, "Chase me through the woods, chase me." It's kind of like that. And he's going, "Are you kidding?"
It's like a Carry On film, isn't it? Like
so
Carry
she
On
runs in
screen.
there, and he basically gets a hatchet job. Let's put it that way. And he disappears. And then there's we see we also witness he has kind of a weird headache and he has to take a pill. And then we see later on the girl kind of having the same kind of symptoms and issues. And it turns out that this guy was suffering from something like Jacob Creutzfeldt disease. And the implication is he had it, and now the cannibals have eaten him. They're going to start getting it. And there's some odd sort of cultural references in this. Odd in the sense that there's one or two, rather than weird. They reference mad cow disease, don't they? At one point. And I remember when the first time I saw this episode, it was like Creutzfeldt-Jakob disease would only kind of been in the public consciousness not very long, with mad cow disease. Probably, I don't know when that term was coined, but it was kind of new in terms of public consciousness. So the actual name was like, they're doing something that's current kind of one, a bit like they did when they talked about necrotizing fasciitis or this, that, and the other. So it's kind of interesting. They also they get a tour of the plant, don't they? And they find out that the bits of the chicken that don't go into the production line get fed back to the chickens. So they said, did they feed chickens to chickens? And this guy, bloke goes, standard practice. It is, isn't it? It is standard practice. That sort of thing does go on.
That's horrific.
And it still goes on. I think it's certainly reduced in terms of beef, isn't it, in this country? But it is gross. And essentially, there's one point they go near a river or a pond or something, and it's like bright red. And Mulder's going, "Why is that?" And he goes, "Oh, it's the off-spill from the factory. It's kind of really gross." And he said, I want that drain. I want this dredged." And the sheriff's going, "Before I get anyone to do something that disgusting, could you tell me why?" He says, because I've got a hunch. He says, I don't know, he says something like, "I've got a hunch. But if you don't want to do it, I'll get people to do it." And he'll say, "No." And the sheriff's like, "No, I'll do it. I'll arrange it. Don't worry." And they dredge up a load of bones. So there's hundreds of bodies and things in this thing. And it kind of, there was one bit that made me laugh. They'd laid out all the, was it me, or when they dredged, did you see skulls? Because
I didn't pick up on.
No, the thing is, I remembered it that there were skulls in the dredging, but later on there's this point that they can't find any of the heads. So I was trying to think. I should have rewound it and checked, but it was like I was saying, I'm sure I saw skulls, but they make the point that there's no heads, so they've all been beheaded. But firstly, there's a hint of cannibalism going on now in terms of Mulder posits it, and I might have the timeline wrong, but I'm pretty sure at this point they've got all the bones laid out. They realise the chickens have been fed with chickens. I think they've even made the point that maybe because we see the girl goes kind of nutty, doesn't she? And they she shoot her and she falls into the feed.
Yes.
And just sinks slowly while everyone looks horrifically. No one tries to get her out in case she's still alive. It's like, just watch her sink into this chicken goo smash. And there's even a hint that the original man's body's been put in the chicken food chain via this plant. And still, Scully goes out and buys a bucket of fried chicken. and swans around eating it. It's like, how could you eat chicken in that room for a start and have witnessed? She went for. She must have guts like iron guts, Scully. But I tell you, she went for a chicken plant. She knows that. Oh man, and she still eats chicken. She turns up in a place full of human bones and eating chicken. Amazing. I guess that was a joke.
What?
I don't know. It was really gross though. So
I like to think that bucket was full of salad. It's the only thing she could get.
yeah, but she was eating the chicken, wasn't she? She was tucking into it as she walked in. It just reminded me of that one Red Museum where they go and eat the ribs.
I know.
It's good. These ribs are great. You know what? Red Museum, when the episode started, I thought it was this one. I thought Red Museum was going to be this one because I remembered, there's something in a town with meat and, was an issue and all this. But I just got the two episodes conflated.
No, me too. And this one's a bit special for me as well because I remembered reading a novelisation when I was, I guess about 13, and it was our town. So
right. Okay.
That was nice, yeah.
It turns out the man who kind of built what's his name? Chaco, who built the town up, has basically introduced cannibal. He'd been stranded with the South Sea natives where there was cannibalism. I'm sure this has caused a bit of consternation somewhere in the world. They said, we don't do that. But anyway, and for some reason, when he came back, he introduced cannibalism, and it caused them all to be really young. They find out this girl who looks quite young is 47. And it's his granddaughter, and they're kind of shocked. So the cannibalism is somehow keeping everyone young. They never explain it, and all right, okay, fine. But it's there was another bit that made me. I could be wrong about this, but I'm pretty sure Creutzfeldt Jakob only passes on if you eat brain material, and they specifically say the heads were removed. So I didn't quite work that out. But there you go. It could be they do eat the heads, but I don't know.
Well, no, because they're in the cupboard at the end, aren't they?
I was going to come to that, but I don't know if that was just a few. No, that's all right. I was getting to it anyway. I was going to, actually, let's come to it. Yeah, we see some shrunken heads, don't we, later on. So, yeah, that confused me. But I don't know enough about the disease, to be sure. It just occurred to me that seems a bit odd.
Unless they maybe remove the brains.
Yeah, possibly. I mean, you probably do something like that when your mummifies heads, don't you? You move the skull. I don't know. I haven't done it for a while. So. I have to just say, for any potential town running cannibals out there, if you don't want to be found out, don't have a case full of shrunken heads of pictures of you with cannibals right next to a big red ceremonial looking wardrobe where you keep your other heads, right in your lobby where the lights are shining on it and say, look, a spotlight in it. Don't do that, all right? So Mulder goes visits him, and the maid comes in, and he kind of sees this display case where the guy's shaking hands with cannibals, and there's a shrunken head in that case. And then he says, is there a key to this wardrobe? And she says, I haven't got it, sir. And then he doesn't wait for it to go or anything. He starts smashing the lock off. And yep, that's going to be inadmissible. No court's ever going to take this as evidence now. But, he smashes the lock off, opens up, and there's some fresh shrunken heads, aren't there? So he's like, he knows that he's the bad guy. And it's kind of, and at that point, two of it, I'm trying to think, Scully gets caught with someone else. I'm trying to think who.
She goes over to the widow of the initial man who died at the beginning, her house, because she's called Mulder and Scully to say that she's, involved, but she's worried. She doesn't want to be involved anymore. She's worried for her life, and she's not there when she gets there. She's already been taken by the tribal person.
Yeah, we see. We also see her discussing with the town elder, Chaco. He says, "Well, your husband wasn't one of us. We'll look after it." All this kind of business. So we know that something bizarre's going on quite early on. But basically, they take Scully for sacrifice, and this is where it gets very Wicker Man. They put Scully. They chop off a guy's head first. Is it a guy? Yeah, it's another guy's head. In this head brace thing, and there's this like guy dressed up and ceremonial.
Chaco, isn't it? They kill first of all.
Oh, is it? And there's this bizarre thing where he kind of criticises them for eating their own rather than out of towners. Like, nice time to make a moral stand, guy. Yeah, well done. You're a hero. You know, it's kind of anyway. They have him, and they got they've even got a cooking pot, I think.
Yeah,
and they put Scully in this horrible head brace. It's really rank. It's like, oh, imagine having your head put in that. And
that was really uncomfortable.
And then the ceremonial guy raises the axe, and Mulder manages to get there in time. I can't remember what Mulder's been doing all this time.
He was at Chaco's house, so he's driving there and he sees the massive fire, ceremonial fire. And it was quite tense, that. It was kind of like
I liked it. Yeah, of course, he was busting open the wardrobe, wasn't he? And he shoots the ceremonial guy, and we see the mask come off, and it's the sheriff, isn't it? And then another guy who's kind of involved, who's like a doctor at the plant, who's a bit worried that they've all got this disease. He kind of gets, in a kind of very allegorical way, he gets trampled by the crowd, the panicking crowd, doesn't he? It's kind of cool. And then I think Mulder lets Scully out, and they have a bit of bants there, I think. I can't remember the actual words, but there's a bit of bants. And then... What happened to this town of cannibals? Did they just leave? I couldn't quite work out. Did they arrest the whole town? We don't really see it, do we? We don't know what's happened. But there is a kind of comedy shot that reminded me of one of the shots in the episode The Host, where we see like a big thing of about the poultry production, and it says "Good people, good food." That made me laugh. And then it kind of ends. Town full of cannibals.
The bit that made me laugh was the fact that you see authorities kind of cordoning off the factory with like tape, and workers being forced out. So it's like, are these people just going back to work after the FBI gate crashed their little ceremonial?
They're very casual. Presumably the whole town's in on it.
That's what I was thinking, and that made me think, well, why would the sheriff produce the bones? Why not kind of get rid of them?
Yeah, I mean, if he was responsible for dredging it,
the river.
I assumed he was just leading them on with the intention of killing them, but they kind of just let them keep wandering around. Scully only got sort of caught because she was like following the woman up. She wasn't being followed or anything. She wasn't just grabbed. So it's kind of it doesn't quite hang together. However, I kind of like this one. I thought it was pretty fun. It was not quite a comedy episode, but it was close. It certainly was macabre. I think macabre is the best. It's almost like an EC Comics episode, isn't it? You know what I mean? A weird town of cannibals. It had that kind of vibe. So it reminded me again of The Hand. Diverlet's episode. It kind of reminded me of that, though I don't think it was anywhere as good as that one personally, but well directed as ever. Nice music. Not much else to say about this really. It was kind of funny and grim and fun and stuff. Pretty good episode considering they're really at the end of a long run. I think I did quite well. What would you give this one out of 10?
I would give this one an 8.
I agree, yeah, I'll give it an 8 too. I don't think it's as high as some of the ones we've seen, but I really enjoyed it. This one sometimes gets a lot of shit as well for not being good, but I don't see it myself. I think it's really solid. Right, anyway, let's have another little bit of music and get into our final episode of Season 2, Anasazi.
A deadly pace, it came from outer space, and this is how the message ran. Science fiction, double feature, Dr. X will build a creature
Okay, so Anasazi. Right, David Duchovny had input into this one. I don't think he did any writing, but it was certainly based on some ideas he came up with. The main writer on it is Chris Carter. Directed by R.W. Goodwin. Aired first time in the US on the 19th of May 95. Any thoughts? Initial thoughts?
I have to say that at the end of the first series, I thought that the episodes were quite rushed, the final one particularly, and I thought that they kind of spaced this one out perfectly. So the way that it kind of tied into a two-parter and had the cliffhanger with beginning of season 3, I thought that worked really well.
Yeah, I have to say they put a lot in this episode, but didn't feel rushed. It felt really well paced, considering how much material was going into it. Did you notice the Trust No One at the beginning was in a different language? I'm going to guess Navajo, but I don't know what it was. It was like lots of vowels and with like accents above them. But I'm going to guess Navajo, given the content of the episode. Now, Mulder's really out of sorts in this one to start with, isn't he? He's really grumpy. He's got the grumps. And we get this odd thing of there's a death in his building. A woman shoots her partner down the hall, which is a bit odd. And we see the lone gunman turn up, and he's grumpy with them. He says, "I'm not in the mood for the Three Stooges." Like that, and then they start talking about being hunted. One of their number, the Thinker. Is it the Thinker? The Thinker is being hunted by a special black ops team. And again, Mulder makes a quip about, I wish it was you, or something like that. I can't remember. And that they kind of go, tell him a bit about it. And he goes and gets material from the Thinker, who again says he's being hunted. And he thinks he's getting some truth now. He's really desperate, and he's like edgy. It's almost like he's on a caffeine come down, isn't it, or something like that. He's very edgy and angry. But then it turns out what he's been given is in some sort of form that appears encrypted, and he goes nuts. He starts throwing stuff around the office. Scully's kind of shocked, isn't she? And then when Skinner has a little word with him, nothing particularly bad, his usual grumpy Skinner stuff, Mulder lands one on him and then gets his ass kicked, which doesn't surprise me really. For Skinner. It turns into a disciplinary matter, doesn't it? Chris Carter turns up at the disciplinary board. He did a pretty good job. He was a pretty good actor, actually.
Yeah.
It's kind of cool to see him. And in that, Scully gets called in, and Skinner basically says, "Do not hide anything from us. You could go down with him." But she doesn't, does she? She doesn't mention anything. It goes on a bit. There's. I've got loads of notes, and I don't want to bore by going. I mean, it's difficult not to though, because there's so much going on. If we miss anything, it kind of leaves the discussion high and dry. We get Scully's father. We see the CSM, sorry, that's my notes, cigarette smoking man visiting Mulder's father, warning him about his son getting close. So, Mulder's father's implicated in all this. That's quite a term, isn't it?
It is.
And he says he's protected Mulder so far. So now we get an entirely different reason why cigarette smoking man was protecting Mulder. We thought it was because he liked him. That's what he kind of said in the past, but now we got something else. But he also says we don't want to create martyrs. Scully don't know what to do, so she puts the X in the window. And while she's in the apartment, the sniper shoots through it. So, which turns out to be Krychek, I think. It's never quite put together, but I assume it must be Krychek doing that.
Yeah.
Mulder goes sees his father, who's obviously preparing to tell Mulder loads of stuff. And he gets shot. So Krychek's banging off people left, right and centre here. And the dad just says, "Forgive me." And it's weird, this one, because it's kind of... it's almost like this is the first time Mulder's father's warmed up to him. It's the sort of vibe of it.
Yeah.
And it makes you think, is that distance between the two because of his his father's guilt about what's gone on. Who knows? Now, Mulder goes to his apartment and starts sleeping, and Scully lifts his gun, doesn't she? Which she wants to put in for test. I think she says it's to confirm it's not your gun that killed your father, or something like that. But Mulder goes nutso, and starts rattling off the fact that he always knows that she's reporting on him. His paranoid side really comes out in this one, doesn't it?
Yeah.
He let me hold on. I'm just trying to read my notes here. I put Scully doesn't tell him to FO, but thinks something else is the root cause of his behaviour. Yeah. So she basically works out the water supply had been poisoned with, I think she says hallucinogenics, something that's obviously mood altering. And that explains the shotgun mood at the beginning. So, I mean, Mulder's really going through it in this one. And I haven't gone through half of what he goes through yet. But basically, he's been poisoned quite a bit. Oh, yeah, I put poison and then put in a chokehold by Skinner. That's pretty bad. He loses a family member. And that's like, I'm not even close to finishing what happens to Mulder in this one. He basically Krychek. Mulder's hasn't got his gun because Scully's got it, but he encounters Krychek and takes Krychek's own gun off him, wrestles it off him, and he's about to shoot him with his gun. He supposes that Krychek shot his father. Though, like I say, we don't see Krychek shooting him, do we? I can't remember.
Yeah, he's in the shower.
Oh, okay. We don't see Krychek shooting at Scully. Is probably what I'm thinking of. Right. Okay.
No.
So Krychek definitely shot his father. So he's about to shoot Krychek. Scully says, "Put the gun down, Mulder," and we get all that. And sort of doesn't want Mulder to kill him because he thinks if Mulder uses that gun, that'll implicate him in his own father's murder. Is Scully's reading. So she shoots Mulder. Unbelievable. Can't believe it. Not Krychek. With the leg or something, but just shoots Mulder. And Krychek runs away, obviously. Then Mulder wakes up and he's obviously got whatever toxins running him out of his system, and he apologises to Scully. She tells him about the water contamination, and she says she's worked out what the code is. She thinks it's Navajo. She's been doing her own thing, hasn't she? Talking to Navajos, a representative of the Navajo Nation, and she also says these encrypted files. They've done a bit of translation, and she says her name and Dwayne Barry is in some of the later entries. So it's obviously this is now tying into the beginning of the episode in a really cool way, isn't it?
Yeah.
Beginning of the season, I mean. Anyway, Mulder goes to the Navajo Nation. They tell him they found something weird. And I've forgotten to mention, the episode starts with a young sort of Navajo finding something in the desert, and it's like this weird alien desiccated body, isn't it? It's kind of cool.
Yeah.
And he takes Mulder to the place, and he's in this rail cart with these weird bodies, aliens, and is he talking to Scully at this point on the phone? I remember there's definitely
yeah, because he tells her about the bodies inside. Yeah,
but first he gets a call from the cigarette smoking man, who asks him where he is, and I think he says, "I'm at the Betty Ford clinic," and he says, "I need to explain something to you." But basically, he's just trying to get a trace on the call so they know where Mulder is, which succeeds, isn't it? They find out where Mulder is. But the cigarette smoking man doesn't know what he's been told, so he says, "Do not act on what your father told you. I have to sort of he basically intimates he needs to explain it to him, but he makes the point of saying your own father authorised this." Scully then, I think, finds out a bit more. She finds out Access scientists employed by America were working on humans, doing some sort of testing work, experimentation on humans, and they refer to the humans in that case as merchandise in the encrypted files. So there's something really sinister going on. Now Scully then says, well, I found these things, but they're not humans, there's something else. Then he sees there's a smallpox immunisation scar on one of these beings, and he says, oh my God, Scully, what have they done? So there's obviously, they're not just aliens, there's something, they're humans experimenting or something. And then the boxcar gets shut because the boy sees a helicopter. Cigarette smoking man sort of rocks up in a helicopter with a load of Black Ops guys. They grab the boy, they search the boxcar. Mulder doesn't appear to be in there, so he says it basically orders them to sort of firebomb it. So they firebomb the boxcar, which we are, as viewers, that was the last place we saw Mulder. We don't know where he's gone. Flames coming out and it kind of ends. There's a lot in that. I spent about 15 minutes
Well
on camera. I did make fairly extensive notes. Really good, really interesting. Kept me totally engaged. So there's a lot going on. I remember really liking this when I first saw it as well, but really being peeved because it was an end of a season episode. So it's like, oh my God, I got to wait, 6 months or something to see what happened. Couldn't believe it. There was some nice, really nice writing in this. I think it's Chris Carter. I think this is possibly his best writing. There was nothing to, how he throws in weird crap just to be weird. I don't think there was anything of that in this. This was pure. I mean, it was weird, but it was like, it wasn't just there to be weird, if you know what I mean. It wasn't there just to be just a little extra mystery on top of all the other mysteries. It was all A to B and really kind of cool. I don't think he had time to put anything else in, was maybe the thing, but this really worked for me.
Yeah.
I mean, I've gone through loads here, haven't I? And it didn't feel rushed or anything.
No.
There was some nice little, as I say, there's some really nice writing touches in this. I got a feeling this script was polished from the beginning of the season, and that's why it's so good.
They knew exactly where they wanted to go.
Yeah. There was one bit I really liked where they talk about the Anasazi. The Anasazi in this episode, apparently for real, it's not really like this, but the Anasazi are described as an ancient tribe that were there that all disappeared and without a trace. And Mulder actually says at that point, nothing. It says something like nothing disappears without a trace. And then when the special ops guys search the boxcar and can't find Mulder, they go back and say to the cigarette smoking man, he's vanished without a trace. And the cigarette smoking man says, nothing vanishes without a trace. So there's a bit of nice little bit of reflective writing, recall writing that I liked. There's a nice callback. So we're left with a mystery. For where did Mulder go? And, is he in that firebomb truck kind of thing? Well, I can't remember what Scully's just left hanging at this point. She's waiting for the files to be translated still a bit more, but she kind of, last thing, as far as she's concerned, she was talking to Mulder and he's been cut off. Right, so and that's how it ended. What an ending! Really nice cliffhanger. This. Do you know if they knew they were coming back or not?
I believe so, and I also have in my notes that David Duchovny had a big part in writing this as well. So
it's bigger than I suggested, because I thought it was just he suggested some ideas, but he had a bigger part than that. You think?
No, I think he, from a bit of research I did, that he really did have quite a lot of input, and he wanted it to ask more questions.
Really? That's interesting. I wonder what. But basically we're getting this idea that scientists were researching alien DNA and hybridizing with humans is how we're left at the end of this, isn't it?
Yeah.
Kind of cool. I'm just looking at some of the reviews on this one. I just thought it was very highly rated by a lot of reviewers, but some of them said it was kind of frustrating because you had to wait so long, I guess. A bit like me, really. Chris Carter said of the episode, I'm proud of the way it came together, what we did for the series, and the overwhelmingly positive response it's gotten. It set him up really nicely for season 3, actually. That's what I have to say about it. And I'm really keen to watch the next 2, because this is a part 1 of a 3-parter.
Yes.
The first 2 episodes of season 3 are the continuation and culmination of this story. So, and one of the things I'm kind of pleased about, it's been so long since I last watched it, I can't remember what happens. So it's almost like watching it from new, but knowing the characters already is awesome. So I'm really enthused about it, I have to say. Have you got anything else to say about this one?
Just to add that with the cliffhanger ending and the way that Scully's left, she's kind of put everything on the line, which again is so not kind of in her character. That I thought that was a really nice way to end it as well. It just added, to the tension and the frustration, really. But that's a good thing because you want him more.
Yeah. What would you give this out of 10?
I think I'd have to give this a 9.
I'm going to go a little less than that. I really liked it, but I'm trying to think back on some of the other 9s and 10s I'm giving it, and I don't think I like it quite as much as some of those. Though I think this is a really solid episode, and I think I need to watch it again to be sure of this score. But I'm going to give it an 8. But I've got a feeling if I was to watch it again, I might raise that score. I don't think it's ever going to go below an 8 for me. In fact, I know it isn't. It's definitely 8 is its baseline, but I'm going to give it an 8 this particular instance. Okay, so that's season 2 over with. I'll tell you what, let's have a bit more music to wind up things and just go through some final, what we think are the best and worst and notable episodes of season 2. Okay, should we start with the negatives? What do you think? Start with the negatives on this. What was your worst episode of this season?
Oh, there were a few that I didn't enjoy as much as the others because I think season 2 more than season 1, the really good episodes were outstanding. Yeah. So I think I'd have to say Colony.
Colony. You didn't like Colony? Oh, yeah, I remember you not liking that so much. No, I like that reasonably enough. Fair enough. Was it because it just was a bit of a letdown after the first part? Colony was the second of a two-part, wasn't it?
That's the first
the subs.
one.
Oh, Colony was... Yeah, sorry, my mistake. I had it confused.
And then Endgame. To be fair, I'd kind of link them both. The two-part aspect of that, I just felt it was really rushed and a bit goofy, and yeah, it just didn't work at all for me, I'm afraid.
Yeah, I'm just checking my notes over on it. Yeah, I didn't mind it too much. I kind of like the alien bounty hunter, though
that didn't work for me. It's just the way he was like shape-shifting and... No, I don't know.
Interesting. The worst one for me by far was Fearful Symmetry. I just thought it was a goofy episode. It was just silly and the logic was all over the place. Having said that, you know what? I remembered bits of it very distinctly and I haven't watched it in many years. So, in terms of imagery, it's perfectly fine. It's just the whole... A, it was incoherent in terms of story, and B, it was bloody depressing. It was like, man, basically the dying elephant was like, oh man, I nearly checked out at that point, to be honest. Okay, so there's our negatives, I think. Any other bad ones as far as you're concerned?
I would have to say as well, probably Blood wasn't great.
Oh, I like Blood. It was again kind of goofy, but I kind of thought it was fun. Apart from the woman who was kind of rape obsessed, that was kind of a bit weird.
Yeah, it was a bit strange.
Yeah, it was a bit strange. Yeah, okay. Let's do our top threes now. What was your? Let's start with now. What was your favourite episode of this season?
I'd have to say The Hand.
Yep. Same here. There's just something about The Hand. I just love it. I already explained in the episode we discussed during the episode why it has a particular fondness for me, apart from what it is. But it's just so cool. It's just such a rewatchable episode. It's got that really weird stuff in with the middle with the girl going on about being ritually abused. doesn't quite gel, but they managed to get over that quite nicely. And also, it's the one episode. It is, hand on heart, my favourite pre-credit sequence of any X-Files episode. I just love the fact they've got these straight-laced looking sort of PTA people who then get out the candles to worship Satan. That's awesome. Just made me laugh. Okay, so we agree on that. Die Verletz. Okay, what's your number 2?
That would have to be Irresistible.
Irresistible. Donny Faster, isn't it? Donny Faster.
Yes.
Yeah, that was a great one. That actor did an amazing job. Very memorable. Irresistible is my number 3, just to be clear, but I hold it in very high regard. We are close. Great episode. Very Millennium-like.
Yes.
But great performance. One thing I forgot to mention on the Anasazi one. I think David Duchovny's acting in Anasazi is his best acting so far. He puts in a great performance.
Yeah, I'd agree with that.
The reason I'm saying that is because of the great performance Gillian Anderson did in Irresistible. She puts in a fantastic performance in that. So I think in terms of acting, Irresistible's Gillian Anderson's finest hour to me in this set. So I really enjoyed it. Okay, my number 2 was The Host.
That would be
giant worm guy. Just love that one. It's so goofy and fun and disgusting as well. It really worked for me on all levels. Some of it's not very logical. What was this a life cycle thing? Was like them worms the guy swallowed turning him into a worm? What's going on? Again, it's gross as well, coughing up giant rubbery nematodes, lovely. But yeah, our Host was my number 2. Okay, what's your number 3 then?
Can I have more than one?
Yeah, go on.
I'd say it would have to be a tie for me between Firewalker, Red Museum, and Our Town. Okay, now Red Museum and Our Town, they're structurally quite similar, aren't they, in terms of some of the themes? Yes.
Firewalks, not so much.
I think it's the environmental aspect. I just love when they kind of raise these kind of issues, even if the kind of exposition isn't great. It's the current issues, like you say, are really interesting, and especially for me, the way that they kind of portray, eating animals. And I've made a comment before when we talked about a Texas Chainsaw Massacre on the United Nations of Horror podcast, that seems like it's a very kind of pro-vegetarian or vegan film. Mm-hmm. And these episodes seem to be, for me, I just think there's so much in them. I just find them really, really fascinating.
I always find it interesting that though they present this other agenda, different agendas, the X-Files takes a kind of reactionary view, and it's like, the environments, they're kind of good people, but it's a bit wacky, isn't it? And it's kind of very conservative in some ways, which is kind of traditional in horror movies, but it's kind of interesting that they don't go out, they stick to a more conservative sort of view of things ultimately. But it's kind of good that they're raised. I kind of agree with that. So you got the 3 of them. Okay, well, I am not gonna. I've already said my 3. The Host, and Irresistible. I've got some honourable mentions, so they could go in with those. On those, Our Town is the standout for me. I really, really enjoyed it. I kind of like Red Museum. I wasn't that taken with Firewalker. It was all right though. But I wasn't hugely taken with it. Not as much as you, anyway. For me, I've already said Our Town is one of my honourable mentions. Other honourable mentions I've got on my list are Humbug. I really enjoyed Humbug. I thought it was really good. It's the first comedy episode, really. Almost entirely comedy, and I really enjoyed it. One Breath I really liked, where we get... To me, it's almost like the resolution for Scully of saying goodbye to her father. There's that one scene in it where her father's just talking to her. He'd give one breath, one moment with her, he'd give everything out, up for just one moment again with his daughter. I thought that was really lovely, actually, and I like the vibe of it. And Aubrey is the other one I really liked. In many ways, similar to The Hand, a bit darker, but a very kind of suspenseful, noirish, sort of macabre piece. With some interesting elements about sins of the parents. I really liked.
Yeah.
Okay, so I think that winds us up for season 2. So I think we'll be recording season 3, the first 4 of season 3 sort of episodes pretty soon. Am I wrong?
Yeah, I've already watched them.
You've already watched them, so I need to catch up quick. So we'll be doing those fairly soon. So when this comes out, we'll probably be less than a week followed up by the next one. So for all you X-Files fans out there, you won't have to wait long for the next one. Do we need to talk about fire at all? Because we've been a bit slack lately. We usually always talk about fire.
That can be the honourable mention.
The honourable mention forever.
Yeah.
That's always in our hearts, is fire.
Yes.
If only Phoebe Green had come back, eh? Okay then. Let's wind out there. So it's bye from me.
It's bye from me.
And remember, they're watching.
I